EN described as a partnership, but what happens when two people slowly stop seeing life the same way? This is the story of Mark and Queen, a story about love, sacrifice, money, expectations, and how unspoken resentment can quietly turn into conflict. Early relationship and marriage. Mark knew he wanted to marry Queen when she was still in her first year at the university. From the very beginning, he was sure about her, but the road to marriage wasn't smooth. Queen's elder sister quietly created obstacles, nothing loud, nothing obvious, but enough to slow things down. That story, however, is for another day. After months of persistence and persuasion, Queen's father finally gave his consent. By then, Mark had secured a better job in a bank, an upgrade from where he started. Almost 2 years passed before they finally got married. Mark was a handsome, gentle man. Queen was young, beautiful, and much younger than him. Because Queen was still in her second year at university, Mark took full responsibility for all her expenses. He never complained. In fact, he appreciated her deeply for choosing him when he had little more than vision and determination. Even Mark's mother embraced Queen fully. She sold women's clothing and promised her, "I will dress you so well." Before the wedding even happened, the family had already accepted Queen as their own. Early years of marriage and financial dynamics. About 2 years into the marriage, Mark had to travel abroad for his master's degree. Before leaving, he prepared carefully. He built a house for his parents, secured a separate flat for Queen, and made her a signatory to all his bank accounts, so she would never lack access to money, and so she'd be protected if anything happened to him. But one issue quietly lingered. Mark did not consistently give Queen a personal monthly allowance. Whenever Queen raised the issue, Mark explained that he was investing heavily in property development. Sometimes he gave the allowance, sometimes he stopped it suddenly, insisting the building project needed more funds. What never changed was this: the house was provided for, and Queen's personal needs were met. At first, Queen didn't see it as a big problem, but she still felt uncomfortable having to ask for money whenever she wanted to spend. Mark reassured her often. He loved her. He reminded her of that. Life apart. Mark abroad, Queen at home. Mark lived abroad for about 4 years, but visits. During that time, Queen gave birth to their first child. Although Mark sent money, the early stage was difficult. Both families had to step in to help Queen and the baby. Eventually, Mark returned home. He didn't want to remain abroad after his studies, partly because he feared the high rate of divorce he saw around him. Before returning, he had registered a company to start a business back home. Things didn't go as planned at first, but later he secured a good-paying job and continued property development. Mark was careful with money, but generous. Whenever he wanted to give to others, Queen encouraged him. Mark admired her kindness and saw her as a true partner. Still, the issue of personal allowance returned. Queen told him it was unfair that she had to ask for money whenever she wanted to spend, especially when he could easily give money to others. Mark replied calmly, "I give money to outsiders once in a while, but what I have belongs to you too." One day, Mark asked her directly, "Should I stop buying things for you and instead give you monthly money?" Queen replied honestly, "I want both." Mark shook his head and pointed to the building project. "I can only do one. Since you already get everything you need, what exactly would you use the money for? Isn't it better I invest it in the building to beat inflation?" Queen had no clear answer.